Welcome to the Unitarian Universalist Church of Utica. I'm Roz Kearney, a member of the board. Whether you are visiting for the first time or have been a member for many years, you are welcome here. Whatever faiths you have known, if any, you are welcome here. Whoever you are and whomever you love, you are welcome here. We are invited to bring our whole selves to this worship service, our doubts as well as our convictions, the pain and joy we have known, our longing for connection and understanding. Every part of you is welcome here.
Let us bring our hearts and minds into this time for worship.
Good morning. I'm Carol Gable, also a member of the board and the worship committee. I invited our guest speaker, Erin Corrigan, to talk with us after working with her in the Utica Community Gardens this spring and summer. Although I'm not much of a gardener, I was looking for something to do this summer of staying home and decided I could learn something new and help create green space and grow food in the midst of concrete and pavement if I showed up on Tuesdays and did what Erin told me to do. Getting to know her and her passion for the planet and economic and racial justice has been one of the highlights of my summer, so I'm very pleased she is with us here today. Erin grew up in Remsen, New York, and graduated from Clarkson University in 2014 with a degree in environmental science. She spent the past several years traveling the world, learning and working on finding a deeper connection with nature and humanity, seeking a path to heal the relationship between these two. Her journey has brought her full circle back to Utica and Remsen, where she is now working on multiple community initiatives, such as the Utica and Remsen Community Gardens, the Remsen Farmers Market, her own market, vegetable and medicinal herb garden, and the Remsen Diversity Initiative. Let us now enter this sacred time together. Please join me in singing this month's hymn, What a Wondrous Love.
What wondrous love is this, oh my soul, oh my soul. What wondrous love is this, oh my soul. What wondrous love is this that brings my heart such bliss and takes away the pain of my soul, and takes away the pain of my soul. When I was sinking down, sinking down, sinking down, when I was sinking down, sinking down.
Our Reverend Aaron will now light our chalice. As I read the chalice lighting, let there be light. Let it shine in dark places, in moments of pain, in times of grief, in the darkness of hatred, violence, oppression, where there is discouragement and despair. Wherever darkness is to be put to flight, let there be light. Now I think we'll have a children's story from Stephanie.
Hi everyone, welcome to Together Time. Today we've got a really great story for you and it's all about growing. It's called Anywhere Farm and it's by Phyllis Root with illustrations by G. Brian Karras. Anywhere Farm. Have you ever been to a farm? When we think of farms, usually we think of big open spaces and lots of things growing. We'll see what this book has to say. For an anywhere farm, here's all that you need. Soil and sunshine, some water, a seed. Well, that's pretty easy. Fat seed or skinny seed, pointy or round, tenderly tuck it down into the ground. Then you watch and you wait. You water, you weed, your seed will sprout out at its own seedy speed. And you'll have an anywhere farm. Where can you plant your anywhere farm? Where do you think you might plant an anywhere farm? If all you need is water and soil and sunshine and a seed. It could be anywhere. An old empty lot makes a good growing plot, but a pan or a bucket, a pot or a shoe, a bin or a tin or a window will do. Plant a farm in a crate. Plant a farm in a cup, in a box on a balcony 10 stories up. See, so here's an old empty lot. There's one on a windowsill. Here's an anywhere farm in a bucket or a shoe. There's some crates, and here's one way, way, way up. Plant a farm in a truck, in a box, on a bike. Plant an anywhere farm, anywhere that you like. Anywhere that you have some soil, some seed, some sunshine and water. That's all that you need for your anywhere farm. What can you plant on your anywhere farm? What might you plant in an anywhere farm? One of the things that is really easy to grow, I've heard, is mint. I think someone in our congregation has lots and lots of mint. I wonder if that would be a good anywhere farm. Kale in a pail, corn in a horn. Beets and zucchini, oregano, beans, jicama, broccoli, radishes, greens, tomatoes, potatoes, peppers, and peas. On your anywhere farm, plant whatever you please. Who might come to visit your anywhere farm? You might see a monarch, a ladybug, bees, hummingbirds, cardinals, fat chickadees. Your neighbors might come when they see what you've grown. They might want an anywhere farm of their own. Look at this, now they're hanging up a sign that says neighborhood garden, and they're having a farmer's market here. You might give them some seeds they can plant in a can, a carton, a wash tub, an old frying pan, in a boat or a boot, or right in their yard. Anybody can do it. You showed it's not hard. With your farm in a basket and mine on a chair, with soil and sunshine and water and care, one day all our anywhere farms anywhere might turn into an everywhere farm. Everywhere. Look at that. Isn't that beautiful? I would love to stroll through the neighborhood and see this everywhere farm. Where does it all start? What do you need? What do you need? Just one farmer, you, and one little seed. Look at that. There's a sunflower. Do any of you have sunflowers planted in your gardens? We see those a lot, and they're coming up nicely this year. I've seen lots of sunflowers. So that is the end of Anywhere Farm by Phyllis Root. Thanks for joining me for Together Time today, and I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.
Please remember that though we cannot collect our plate offering in person, if you would like to continue to support our mission to nurture spiritual community, honor diversity, and advocate for social justice, please donate online or send a check to the church with the word plate in the memo line. Now we will practice community candles, which is an opportunity for the congregation to be with one another as we mark notable things happening in our lives. If you would like to light a candle where you are, please do so, and in frame if you like. If you would like to briefly share about a significant event in your life and have me light a candle, please unmute yourself or type into the chat. You can also privately message me in the chat for me to light a candle for you in silence. I light this candle for everyone who is afraid. It is a time when many of us are struggling with the fears for our world, for our own lives, for the lives of those that we love. And I put forth my blessings and my prayers and my thoughts as so many struggle. And may everyone know that no matter what, you are not alone. I light one final candle for all of those things in our own hearts, for the people that we love, that we are thinking of, for the people that we don't know, but who need our care and our thoughts. Truly, to care for others is a sacred part of our faith. For our meditation this morning, I share with you a poem by, why is her name completely escaping me right now? Mary Oliver, there we go. My window's not quite where it should be. She writes, "My work is loving the world. Here the sunflowers, there the hummingbird, equal seekers of sweetness. Here the quickening yeast, there the blue plums. Here the clam deep in the speckled sand. Are my boots old? Is my coat torn? Am I no longer young and still half perfect? Let me keep my mind on what matters, which is my work, which is mostly standing still and learning to be astonished. The phoebe, the delphinium, the sheep in the pasture, and the pasture, which is mostly rejoicing since all the ingredients are here, which is gratitude, to be given a mind and a heart and these body clothes, to the moth and the wren, to the sleepy dug-up clam, telling them all over and over how it is that we will live forever. let us enjoy a moment of silence and listen to Spirit of Life.
Spirit of life, come unto me. Sing in my heart all the stirrings of compassion. Blow in the wind, rise in the sea, move in the hand, giving life the shape of justice. Roots hold me close, wings set me free. Spirits of life, come to me, come to me.
Today's reading and benediction are both short passages from one of the excellent essays in Justice on Earth, which was last year's Common Read, a program in which UU congregations read and discuss a common book, usually about social justice and transformation. This essay, written by Peggy Clark, is entitled Eating the Earth. Please keep in mind that this was written several years before the pandemic we now find ourselves in. If we are going to survive this dangerous time, it will be because we are able to envision new ways of living together, new ways of being in relationship with the earth. While we consider things like growing our own food to be a new way, it is in fact the old way. It's how humans have survived for thousands of years. Sometimes critics suggest that community gardens are elitist. That comment only demonstrates how distant we've become from the sources of our food. Food security is at the core of self-sufficiency, and for historically marginalized communities, it is a necessary part of self-determination. Now we'll hear from Erin Corrigan.
Hi, everyone. I hope everyone can hear me all right. My name is Erin Corrigan, and thank you for having me here with you today, and thank you, Carol, for inviting me and sharing such a wonderful introduction. I grew up on Oneida Nation's land in what we now call Remsen, New York, 20 miles north of Utica. The past 4 generations of my family have lived in this area since arriving from Ireland and from Germany. And I come from a family background of tenant farmers and business opportunists. Growing up in Remsen, I was very privileged to spend a lot of time in more natural and wild spaces, to get to play in the water and in the forest, to have fresh air to breathe and all my physical needs met. And this experience for me has supported a passion in preserving wild places and shifting the ways that we human beings live so we're more in balance with the natural world and more complete and whole and fulfilled in ourselves. As Carol said, I studied environmental science in college, and I was strongly involved in climate change activism and sustainability on the campus there. And I often questioned the predominant culture on campus there of apathy and a resistance to changing our ways of being, to move into what we really needed to be more harmonious in our future. So yeah, our food systems and their impact was a really important question for me, and felt like a really important place to center in engaging in change. Holding this question in mind, I spent a lot of seasonal jobs and internships working, doing conservation research and taking data on forests and exploring the country's wild spaces, and gaining a lot of inspiration from young farmers that I was friends with that were living together and working together, and they just felt so grounded, and their life seemed so simple and whole and complete, and they had so much abundance. So I shifted gears a little bit, and while still not having any strong commitments, I left for India with an open trip. And I ended up spending 2.5 years in India and Nepal and Southeast Asia, traveling with a main interest and curiosity on how people live with each other, how they live more connected to the land, doing work exchanges on traditional farms, practicing yoga and meditation, traveling on my bike and by foot, and learning to experience the world from a different perspective. I was very drawn to the more simple ways of life embodied in the rural areas there, with less machinery, more hands, and much more community. A lot of hard work, many laughs, and tea breaks, where most all the homes were multi-generational and where organic food was just food, where people there still were growing up knowing what plants in the wild were medicine, and where the spiritual was still fully interwoven with the physical. And I was and am very saddened by the perception many of these people have gained in seeing themselves as backwards, and that the consumer capitalist American way was forwards, and to see their more simple, grounded ways of life start to erode as the younger generations are getting sent off to schools in the cities, and the villages are aging and starting to be abandoned. And while I understand that these people could certainly benefit and live more easily with certain parts of progress, I felt this backward life had a lot of wisdom to it and was much more rich, held more depth, and was more whole. And here in America, we are largely a country of people who have been dispossessed either of this land or from other lands that we once felt ourselves indigenous to, who held past traumas, many of us hold past traumas in our connection or lack of connection to place and to our sustenance, to our source, and to each other. All this trauma feeds a culture of running away from challenging wounds and grasping after surface pleasures, feeding structures that multiply injustice, greed, feelings of scarcity, and a lack of belonging. So I returned home to this country of wounds and opportunity to try and understand it and see it with refreshed eyes, to see its beauty and pain, and find how I could take lessons I've learned to support efforts to bring us back into balance. I spent 2 more years learning and working on farms and communities throughout the Northeast, living off my bicycle before I circled back to Remsen and Utica this past November. With this travels, often feeling this yearning and striving and searching for home, this idea of coming home has felt a bit raw and painful for me. And I felt really ready to more fully try to find home, to connect fully to a place and to its people, feeling wounded by the ways of our world, and a responsibility to start setting roots and digging into my responsibility to be a part of generating the needed shifts. So my focus in this coming home and supporting a wider access to coming home and cultivating a sense of belonging is strongly centered in a reconnection to the earth and a reconnection to ourselves through our ability to grow our own food, through healing and justice, and through gaining a real ground to stand on for all, to resistance and to joy, and to learning to live with one another with respect and with reciprocity. And I've been thinking a lot of the long line of struggles over freedom and their connections to the land. Where in European history, the strength of feudal peasant uprisings came from an ability for these people to sustain themselves through their gardens, through the forests, and through the streams, and to how these uprisings were weakened and people's physical and spiritual freedoms were weakened by the enclosure of the commons and the expanded privatization of land. This created a separation of people from their source of wealth and abundance, weakening them so their existence had to be mediated by a source of higher power, which makes me also think of the separation of people from the divine, punishing those who maintain this connection so it could only be accessed and translated by the elite. This is one example of power struggles over land and its link in oppression and also its link in liberation. Colonization has repeated this cycle throughout many cultures. And power is so central to all this pain and how it's hurting all of us, how it turns the wounded into those who wound, until we have the divisiveness, illness, fear, and shakiness we live in today. And yet, we can say no. We can reclaim our connection to the land, to the divine, in whatever way we relate to that, to our ability to live together, to struggle together, to experience abundance, and to thrive. And it's not going to be a quick switch, and many are already working on this switch. It'll take a lot of effort, of relearning, and a willingness to change and to be uncomfortable. And it really takes centering equity and justice every step of the way, not settling with our own reconnection to the land and coming back to what we need, but working for this access for all. In my own path of coming into a sense of belonging, I know that I won't fully feel like I've come home until all other beings who wish to engage in a reconnection to the land can do so. And within that, I'm just so grateful and humbled to the many others who are striving in a similar light. So this brings me to Utica and to Remsen, and to this tension between urban and rural places, to community gardens and sanctuary, to farms and wilderness and access to land, to relationship building and attempting to bring a lot of lofty ideals into a grounded, practical reality, into the humbling process, being patient, and also feeling a sense of urgency. And I feel that community gardens are an essential piece in supporting access to land for people, specifically in urban areas, and as a space for community gathering, for learning, and of course, for providing real, nourishing foods. I've been blessed to step into the role of coordinating 2 community gardens in Utica that were started by Cassandra Harris Lockwood many years ago with her non-for-profit For the Good. This experience has given me a more grounded understanding of urban life and brought me into many new friendships. And with COVID this year, I've definitely had to humble my high hopes and expectations for wider community participation in the gardens and this greater vision to land access and sanctuary and connection, and really focus on just getting to know this community that's present at the garden, getting to know the land there, and working on making the gardens feel like a welcoming space for everyone. I realized that just to step foot inside a garden can be very intimidating for people growing up in a city and not knowing how to be in a space where you might touch the soil or be surrounded by plants growing. So just to start to welcome people passing by and gather from our harvests has been a really great starting point for increasing participation in the garden and enabling people to experience a source of the food that they eat. There's been many volunteers and community members using the garden this year, along with a kids group with the organization Rebuilding the Village, their youth group, who comes in and explores the garden and learns about harvesting and seeding. And their first time coming in the garden was just so supportive and filled of hope. These kids all running around, never experiencing a space like a garden before, and how overwhelmed they were by seeing an eggplant growing off a plant and a watermelon, and you never see it other than a grocery store or from their parents bringing it home. So it was amazing to see the awe and wonder and how much hope that gives us for the future, along with a really inspiring 14-year-old young woman who's never left Utica and yet expressed that her dream is to be a farmer. And every insect she sees in the garden bed, she's so curious about while the other kids are running away. And it gives so much hope in the future and makes these spaces even more essential so kids can have access to this connection. And this potential with the community garden continues to grow as some local artists have become curious about the garden recently, wanting to be involved and seeing all the possibility for these spaces to really foster a lot of positivity in the community there. And I really feel these urban gardens to be a bridge towards a deeper connection to the land and to the natural world. And my real intention in being involved in these gardens is to support access to experiences of connecting with the earth and to being in a peaceful, vibrant outdoor spaces. I feel that these experiences touch somewhere in all of our memories, and even if we've been living in an urban environment for generations, these memories touch a place inside of us that's like a coming home to where we were once more in a direct relationship with the natural world and with ourselves. I've recently handed out so many garden keys lately to people who just want to come and sit in the garden, where they notice that once they're inside the garden, the urban world is hardly noticeable, and their nervous systems you can just settle and just be. So it's a garden for food, for connection, for healing, for sanctuary, and for remembering. And in my work in Remsen, I dream of rural spaces being more accessible to all people. With our mainly white community there, I dream of it someday being filled with people of all colors and cultures, with land ownership being more equitably divided and land and resources being cared for with the utmost responsibility. Currently, I'm working slowly and holding patience in this dream by building relationships and learning about where people there are at this time, starting a small community garden there, and expanding the farmers market, working on a small family dairy farm, and growing my own veggies and herbs, while also helping to initiate the new Remsen Diversity Initiative to really focus on how we can make our rural community more accessible and inclusive to all people, and understanding that unless we are proactive in that initiative, that it won't change. Being in the gardens in Utica has made me really realize how intimidating rural spaces can be for people of color. And as a local white individual living in a rural place, I feel it's my responsibility to call my community into a greater awareness and into action to make our community a welcoming place for all people to live, so that this connection to the land and an ability to sustain ourselves through it can really be a reality for all that wish to do so. So within that, part of my personal vision and journey and rural land access is to collaborate with others, making connections with others to purchase some land to hold in a sort of shared land tenureship that could become a mix of farm, community, sanctuary, learning space, nature preserve, whatever is co-created out of that community, helping to provide a source of empowerment, resilience, learning, and a new way of living and engaging, an example for our area. And there's many other communities that I've come across that have very similar visions and provide a lot of inspiration and support and guidance within that. There's some organizations that I can share with people here if anyone is interested in the connection between land access and justice, such as the Northeast Farmers of Color Land Trust and Soulfire Farm reparations map, looking at supporting land access for all people. And I can share those for anyone who's interested. Maybe I can type them in the comments. And all of this weaves back into this coming home where I've found so much safety and support, and being able to connect to the earth throughout my travels and my own ungrounding, whenever I have access to especially with the medicinal plants and just like laying down on the earth, it has provided me so much support. And the idea of others not having anything like that feels really, really heartbreaking and wrong. So yeah, it feels really essential to work towards making sure that's a possibility for all people, to cultivate this sense of belonging here in our home, and to learning to live in community and looking towards how we can cultivate resilience, community empowerment, and free ourselves of oppressive and toxic ways of living, thinking, and engaging. And again, in my role in this path, it all comes back to re-engaging with the land and with ourselves, and healing this division between humans and the earth, and between our minds and between our hearts. Sowing seeds of resistance, of resilience, of joy, and of freedom, and to being open and ready for the changes that are here and that are coming. So that's all I have to share with you all today, and thank you.
Thank you, Erin. Thank you for those words. You give us a lot to think about. Our closing hymn will be an old song, the Garden Song, in honor of the Utica Gardens. You might have heard Arlo Guthrie, John Denver, Peter Paul, Mary sing it, but it's fun. So let's sing together. On mute, of course.
Inch by inch, row by row, gonna make this garden grow. All it takes is a rake and a hoe and a piece of fertile ground. Inch by inch, row by row, someone bless the seeds I sow. Someone warm them from below till the rain comes tumbling down. Pulling weeds and picking stones, man is made of dreams and bones. Feel the need to grow my own, 'cause the time is close at hand. Grain for grain, sun and rain, find my way in nature's chain, to my body and my brain, to the music from the land. Plant your rows straight and long, temper them with prayer and song. Mother Earth will these seeds I sow. Someone warm them from below till the rain comes tumbling down.
It is now time to extinguish our chalice. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we meet again. The benediction again is from the essay titled Eating the Earth. We are a good people on a dying planet. We think a lot and talk a lot and mean very well. We want to do what's right, but sometimes our desire doesn't translate into action, and often we're too busy with the details of our own existence. We just can't think about anything outside of the next few hours. We want stronger communities and a healthy planet, but we don't have time to learn about all the things we have to do to get there, so we hope someone else will do enough for the rest of us. But that's how we got here. Good people not being able to get past the inertia of our individual lives. We who have churches or other faith communities have more than most. We have each other. We aren't talking about individual lives. We're talking about our collective life and the life we share as a congregation. This essay is about food, but it's also about harvesting a deeper way of living. It's about planting and watering and weeding and harvesting community. It's about deeper life, better life, shared life. It's about being transformed. Sorry about that, I just love this essay. Anyway, we will now have the postlude and share a few photos taken of the Utica Community Gardens this season. I hope you enjoy.
Standing at the crossroads, trying to read the signs to tell me which way I should go to find the answer. And all the time I know, plant your love and let it grow. Let it grow, let it grow. Let it blossom, let it flow. In the sun, the rain, the snow. Love is lovely. Let it grow. Looking for a reason to check out on my mind. Trying hard to get a friend that I can count on, but there's nothing left to show. Plant your love and let it grow. Let it grow, let it grow. Let it blossom, let it flow. In the sun, the rain, the snow. Love is lovely. Let it grow. Time is getting shorter. There's much for you to do. Only ask and you will get what you are needing. The rest is up to you. Plant your love and let it grow. Let it grow, let it grow. Let it blossom, let it flow. In the sun, the rain, the snow. Love is lovely.